This episode of the Cigar Social Podcast is brought to you by Black Star Line Cigars. From the highly rated Warwich to the outstanding Lalibela and classic El Milagro. These cigars are absolutely incredible and use the absolute best tobacco from Aganorsa leaf, which is farmed and expertly handcrafted in Esteli, Nicaragua. Visit them at blackstarline.shop and use promo code CIGARSOCIAL15 for 15% off your entire order and receive free shipping on all orders over $100. Black Star Line Cigars. Cigars are a daily operation. Welcome to the Cigar Social Podcast. My name is Matt Richards-Lanza. Yes, I'm hyphenated, and my pronouns are he, him. I am your host. This is episode 31. Thank you for joining. Folks, I've expressed this before. I honestly don't care who you are, what you are, where you come from, what you look like. We are all living on this rock, floating in space together. I support nothing but your happiness, your love, and your humanity. This podcast has reached tens of thousands of listens and views across multiple media platforms and even reached listeners in over 30 countries. So today I want to use this platform that I built to stand on something that I hold close to my heart, to celebrate Pride Month, to share awareness of a phenomenal local organization that advocates for the LGBTQIA+ community here in Northern Illinois, Belong Fox Valley, sticking with the theme of the podcast, though I've noticed, unfortunately, there isn't a real representation of the queer community in whiskey and cigar industry, so I hope that we can help crack that door open just a little bit and bring people together like cigars and whiskeys are meant to do. Here in the shed, I have members of Belong Fox Valley to talk about the organization, upcoming events, the mission, how it got started, and even the future. Folks, say hello to Caleb Anderson and Scott Naylor. Thank you for joining. How are you doing?
Good, Matt. Thanks for having us.
Definitely. Thanks for having us.
In every episode, we start with what we're smoking and then what we're drinking. I picked this unique cigar, which is we lit up before we hit record. It's a easygoing cigar to enjoy with friends. This is the Black Market Filthy Hooligan Shamrock. So it's got the triple. This is the limited edition annual release cigar. This cigar actually was the 2022 release. This was aged in my humidor for about a year. I bought 2 boxes and I got a surplus because you can tell that these are phenomenal smokes. They're handmade in the Plasencia Cigar Factory in Honduras, and it is a medium strength 6x50 Toro. It's got a Nicaraguan filler, Ecuadorian Sumatra binder, Honduran Candela, Nicaraguan Habano Seco, and Nicaraguan Habano Maduro wrapper mixed in a triple leaf barber pole design, something that is kind of unique. You don't really see that quite often. I figured it was perfect for today's company and conversation because I wanted to get a cigar that had some color to it, had some complexity, but also a uniqueness that's unlike anything else. What do you guys, what do you think so far?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right off the jump.
It's just smooth. And the first bowl that I did, I was like, man, that is so, like, crisp with the whiskey. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit there, but it was like almost the chill on the tongue. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So good.
And even with the cold draw, like you said, you got that flavor off the wrapper because you're getting the cold draw from the Candela, the Maduro. Like, it's just... It's going to change. It's going to evolve. Today's bottle is a special bottle. And to celebrate, today is actually National Bourbon Day. Did you know that?
Perfect.
Did not know that.
So, to celebrate National Bourbon Day and this special episode, I wanted to share my personal Infinity bottle with y'all today. This is something that I've done in a very early episode, but since then, that was a year ago, it's definitely evolved since then. In case you don't know, an Infinity bottle is a personal blend of bottles you can do with whiskey, gin, whatever your preferred drink is. It's called the Infinity bottle because the bottle never really ends. It's consistently replenished as it's consumed. Like I was saying before we hit record, as soon as it hits about halfway, maybe a little bit less than halfway, depending on how good the night's going. I'll stop, I'll leave it alone, and now that turns into, it goes back to refill mode. After you add some new components, give it some time to marry, letting it sit and mingle. You don't have to wait a long time, like a day or two, just so it kind of integrates with everything, and then you can taste it and see how it has changed from what it was. As time goes on, you'll continue to contribute to it. This becomes now your personal blend. You cannot replicate it. It is completely unique, and it is one of a kind. And as I always say, I like my whiskey straight, and my friends can go either way. Scott and Caleb, cheers. Thanks for being here tonight. I'd like to raise a glass.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's good.
It is. It's a really good concept.
Yeah.
And nice and smooth.
So smooth.
So now on to Fox Valley, Belong Fox Valley. I don't know who wants to start with this question, but starting from the start, where, when, and why was Belong Fox Valley created?
Well, it was a small group of folks that just wanted to support people in the community. Many of them actually involved with the youth. So we've got some GSA sponsors, some parents who are allies, and then a couple folks from the community. And they're all superheroes because they just make things happen. It's kind of incredible what they're able to accomplish in a short period of time, as far as organizing events and having them be like really relevant and something that people would want to come on into. So about a year ago, we did our Pride in the Park. We did some other events at the library and whatnot. We're like, we could really do something with this. There's not a presence in the Tri-Cities.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's doing that, bringing people together. And in the suburbs, it's hard to find your people. It just is. You live in the city, you can find your queer folk. But the further out you go, the harder it is to find folks that you can belong with, right?
Right.
So the concept just came together as let's create at least one space where people can go. And we've created events like the Cheers Queers, which we do the first Monday of every month, which is awesome.
Which, by the way, not to cut you off, but that is exactly where I found out about Belong. I was down at Sturdy Shelter sitting at the bar, and we went, and we're like, oh, this is great. And, who was singing?
Shoot.
Cheryl Rodney?
Yes,
Rhodey.
Rhodey. Phenomenal.
So
Very
much
good.
fun, too.
Yeah. And I even, asked our neighbors to come down and hang out. And it was just a fun time. And I'm so happy that just that event alone seemed like a good place to congregate, hang out, and just meet and belong.
It's nice because it's our most regular event.
Yep.
And it's just a real casual adult conversation and relaxed hangout
Yeah.
at different locations around the Fox Valley.
And very accessible. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
if you go to an event, you have to buy a ticket or something like that. So we wanted something where you could just show up, enjoy people's company, get to know other queer people in the community, and here we are. You know, our events are very well attended, as you saw.
That you had a really good, and they had the what was it, the grilled cheese food truck
yeah.
out front.
Yep.
They killed it. But
Totally.
yeah, that whole upstairs of Sturdy Shelter was hopping.
Yeah, that's a great spot.
I was actually using Cheryl's QR code and requesting songs from down at the bar. I was the asshole who actually requested Freebird, and
She didn't know what to do with that one.
she definitely looked down at me and said, "Nope."
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah. So, I mean, outside of the Cheers Squares, we've done some awesome things in Pride Month. We were able to march in a couple parades, which was super, super fun. We've never done that before. And we've tried to always have some events for the families.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you can get together at a brewery and meet some other adults, but the second you have kids, the queer community just disappears. So how can we create a space where families can come together, their kids can come together, they can see families that look like theirs, and just have a good time?
Yeah.
So our Pride in the Park was this past weekend. It was awesome.
I know. I'm so sorry I missed that.
It was awesome.
You gave me a heads up, but it was I already yeah.
It was so much fun. Yeah, and we had a very good attendance, and we're fortunate that the community has been pretty supportive. We have found the people in the community that are supportive. The faith-based community in the Tri-Cities, they actually co-hosted with us, and they cooked food the whole time, burgers and dogs, and they were just there to make sure everybody was having a good time, and it was fantastic. So coming out day events, just general gatherings, being able to live your life like other people do,
Yeah.
in a way that's just you.
Yeah. I like how you didn't use the word normal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because everyone has a normal, and not everyone's normal is the same normal.
A perfect example of that is the queer prom.
Speaking of queer prom, I know that there was one at Sidecar Supper Club
Last Friday.
Last Friday.
On the 9th.
I heard you won something.
I did.
What did you win? And how?
Hottest at prom.
You got the hottest at prom.
I did.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Super cool.
That's always a fun event.
Yeah.
And that one's a 21 and over. And the one we do the teen queer prom in April. That kind of is close with the local high schools, but for the kids that want to go to something if they're not comfortable going to the actual high school prom, and it's a little more laid back, less pressure, and everybody's free to be who they are.
And be able to have the same experiences as other kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't go to my prom for reasons that a lot of them didn't go to their prom. So having
Yeah.
a place where they can go and just be themselves, and we have folks come in and they're not out, their parents don't know, and so they go into the bathroom and they change,
Yeah.
and they come out and you can see the physical, emotional transformation from just that. It's incredible
Yeah.
to be able to help create a space for the teens to have that.
I think that that's something a lot of people don't think about. I mean, obviously, a straight cisgender man here, I have grown up with a lot of people in my life who were a part of the LGBTQ community. I love every single one of them, and I've seen some of the trials and tribulations that they've gone through with trying to come out, and parents disowning and not being able to do this, and it's something that you really need to understand. And I think that's probably, from my perspective, from the window I'm looking out of, that's the one thing that people don't understand.
Yeah.
If you don't have someone close to you and actually kind of live that experience with them, it's hard to understand what they go through.
I'll give you a really tiny example. My fiance, her and I went to Belize, and we stopped in Dallas because that's what you do. You stop in one of the areas to go international. But my best friend lives there, so we were like super excited to stop, and I could introduce my friend to her. And when we were getting ready to leave the next day, I took my watch off, and my watch has it's the Pride band.
Yeah.
And it has another watch band that comes with it, so I took my watch band off. And she's like, "Why did you do that? You love that watch." I'm like, when we land and I have to use the restroom, I don't want to walk in there and get my ass kicked. Because I don't know what's going to happen in a different country.
Yeah.
You don't know how that community is going to respond to something basic like that.
Mm-hmm.
So she was blown away. She's like, the fact that you have to think about like the watch. Little things that, on a daily basis that folks just wouldn't think of.
Yeah. Yeah, I obviously I can't relate. I don't know. Going back to Belong, is there any experiences that you can share from events Belong Fox Valley that maybe you assisted a person or people that maybe was struggling with acceptance issue, or maybe even needed confidence to come out openly?
I don't know if you have any specific examples. I would just say I don't have a specific example either, but some of our events, like Caleb mentioned, the National Coming Out Day event we do in October, the Teen Queer Prom, we may not know of an individual case, but those are things that kind of encourage people to attend and have a chance to be who they are, and maybe, as they leave there, maybe they meet some new people, maybe they take a new, they've got a new perspective on who's around the area that's like them. I think those things kind of encourage that, or help make people comfortable to be able to come out potentially.
Yeah.
Just coming out to the event.
Mm-hmm. That's a big.
That's
just
step,
being there.
That's step
for
one.
a lot of people, for sure.
Every event that we've
Yeah.
done, I have folks come up to me and they say, I didn't know there was other queer people in the suburbs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I have felt so isolated and so alone, and just being able to come out in that moment gave them more confidence in their life. It just makes them happier. You see them the next time, they're like, oh, we were looking forward to this, and you can tell that they're embracing something that maybe was a little harder to embrace.
Yeah. I mean, just not even close to related to that question, but when I first moved up here, I didn't know the area that well when I moved here from Jersey. And my wife worked for Mutual Ground, and she's an advocate
okay.
for domestic violence and assault and all that
Very
stuff.
cool.
And we marched in the Aurora Parade a couple years ago.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
And I held the Mutual Ground banner as we walked through, and as allies, obviously, like I there were so many people there that were celebrating the fact that it was just pride. I mean, I think that word alone holds a lot of weight. It was pride. And I'm just very lucky and fortunate to be in that moment to see that, and then it just kind of cemented my like allyship, if you would call it that.
Sure.
Like I will, I'll get into it more, but yeah, I just feel like a lot of people need to understand that there's resources out there, like Belong, and that can help and build these events and have these gatherings. To discuss the isolation of the LGBTQIA community experiences in the burbs, what are some approaches that your organization are taking to kind of change that stigma?
Well, some of it is the Cheers of Queers. We've been fortunate to have a strong following with our social media. We've been able to reach more people with our social media. Yeah, and I'd say that really it's the events. At the end of the day, it's the events. And being able to create a space. Being alone in the suburbs sucks, right? When you don't have any friends, you feel left out, that isolation, especially right now with the way things are in the world and whatnot. But folks everybody needs to have their space for who they are, right? So what we do is we create that space, and they find us through their friends and through somebody that they heard, at work said, that somebody that might be, oh, you got to come to this thing. I know that you don't have a lot of friends in the area or something, right? So the isolation piece is hard, and work like this, where we can bring people together, it's life-saving work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's life-saving work.
Yeah.
And you can save a life by having a beer with somebody. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Everything here in this area all the towns are fairly close together, but I think we try to jump that event around between Batavia, Geneva, St. Charles. We've done it in Elgin. So all of the advertising is done basically the same way through social media, but if somebody sees that it's in Elgin and I live in Elgin, maybe I'll go to that rather than drive all the way to Batavia.
Yep.
So I think in that respect, we try to encourage accessibility, make it easier for people rather than having to travel too far. And there's other great advocacy groups in Northern Illinois, a lot of much bigger, much more established groups, and they all do their similar types of events. But like Caleb said, we're hitting the Tri-Cities and the Fox Valley area hard and trying to really make it available to people.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that, the fact that it's not just one area. You're trying to reach out.
Yep.
Besides Cheers Queers, what other activities do you put together outside of Pride Month?
Well, we did the coming out day event, and that was awesome. I had mentioned earlier that we were like, oh, we've got an idea, let's do it, and
Yeah.
everybody organizes really quickly. We all get along really well. It's just been very interesting to see how we can pull things together, and everybody just picks their piece.
Where was that held?
That was actually at the Presbyterian Church on State Street in
East
Geneva.
side of Geneva.
Oh, okay.
Inside of Geneva, yeah.
Which, like Caleb mentioned before, they're like the folks from that church are hugely instrumental in a lot in the Pride in the Park and some of our other events. They're extremely supportive. They just let us use the lot there a couple of weeks ago to have a decorating party for the LG parade. Yep.
Very cool. I've actually noticed there's one church in Batavia that just decorated all their trees.
The Congregational Church, and they've had that display with the doors,
doors.
out there
Yeah,
for the
the
last
doors are
couple
really
of years.
cool.
Yeah.
They're also, the pastor there is also LGBTQ, and she's extremely supportive of,
Very cool.
of other organizers and other events. She allows things to be held at the facility there.
Something that we are starting in July, and part of what's cool about this is there's the core group of us, the board members, who do all the planning, and there's a lot more involved in it than you would think. I never did anything like this before.
Oh,
I'm like,
I bet,
wow,
yeah.
there's a lot that you have to do to really make it special for people. And when somebody came to us and said, I'd like to do this thing, is it okay if I'm in charge of it, you can help me? And we could do it. So we're like, yeah, we don't have the capacity to do that because we're doing so much specifically now. So now we've got somebody from the community coming and saying, like, I need your support. Can I do it? And it's similar to the Pride in the Park that we did. They're going to go to different parks. They're going to have maybe some games and stuff that they take each time, but that way families with young kids can have their kids on the playground. They can meet other queer families and just bring that element together. Because that part, once you have kids,
Yeah.
it makes it really challenging to find your people.
Yeah, and it's definitely probably a different atmosphere, with the queer community family events type of,
totally.
because let's chat about the recent city council meeting here in Batavia. They voted the Pride proclamation, and it seems like a few folks who had called the pride flag sitting outside of City Hall offensive, and that it wasn't a unity flag, but it was, and I quote, a disunity flag, and it had no business being there. Ironically, Scott, you followed that negative narrative from that woman who called the flag offensive, and may I say your comments were made of class, and I was very proud of your approach and that speech that you did in front of the board. You called the flag a beacon of acceptance for queer people, which is exactly what it is. I think it's a serious point, as some of the hate stems from the misunderstanding of folks who have no idea what it is like to be unaccepted. People who don't experience the verbal and physical abuse, or even the mental health and even suicidal tendencies that come from being targeted as from their gender or sexual identity. Can you dive a little deeper into that conversation and educate our audience about the issues that we need to address as a community to unite and prevent hate against the LGBTQIA plus community?
Yeah, of course. I think you said the misunderstanding, and that's huge. And I have multiple perspectives on this, living in Batavia, being a parent of kids in the Batavia schools. So I see it in the community. I see it from the greater world around us, and I see what happens in the schools. And we all see the community stuff and the social media things and the misunderstanding there. It's in the schools where educators might not understand how to relate to queer kids, whether it be gay kids or trans kids or non-binary kids. They have a hard time respecting chosen names, pronouns, and my kids have told us multiple stories of incidences like that in the schools here. Besides Belong, we've got a local parent group that's working to make those changes in the school district as well. And then as far as the city council meeting, I was asked to come and speak because when they read the proclamation and vote it in, they like to have somebody kind of follow it up with a speech on what that means to Batavians. And Alderman Chanzit, who read the proclamation and is openly LGBTQ himself, asked me to come. So my speech was prepared ahead of time. None of us really anticipated the public comment section the way that it went.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it was only 2 people, and you could tell just by looking around the room that everybody was just waiting for him to, say what they needed to say and move on. Because we all know it's out there. It is a little more jarring when you experience it firsthand in the community that you live in, especially when you're doing work like this constantly. I mean, this is on my mind all the time, and it's just a huge part of who I am and what I do. And so it was a little bit disturbing, but as you saw from anybody that's watched it can see that, we were able to move on, and it turned the whole thing around. And my daughter getting up there and speaking about our teen queer prom event really, I think, opened a lot of eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that as well. And even, you talk about the schools. I remember years ago, from my previous marriage, I had a daughter who did a Christmas concert.
Oh, right.
And, Don We Now Are Gay Apparel in one of the Christmas songs. They changed the word gay to something completely different. I can't remember what it was, but I was so... At that point, I was in the audience, and I yelled gay. Like, it's like, that's not the words, right? And I was like, that's just the school faculty... just, I don't know if they thought it was offensive. I don't know if they were trying to steer away from the community, but they definitely changed the words of the song to avoid the word gay. And I thought
did a little bit of looking into that after you sent that to us in the email. And there was a whole big event with the Hallmark company, and they made a sweater that said, Don We Now Are Gay Apparel. They had to change it, and they actually replaced the word gay with the word fun. And you asked us ahead of time, or mentioned in the notes, if it's disrespectful to the community to use the word that way, I think is how you put it.
Yeah.
I think it's more disrespectful to pull it out for the reason that they did, because
right.
The people that are so divisive automatically relate that word to sexuality.
Yep. And when that song was written, the word gay meant happy.
Right.
When that song was written years ago.
Of course, many years ago.
So, yeah, to pull it out, like that was something I was curious about. Was like, was that a safe move on their part, or was that just them being...
I think it's a lot like it is today. I think a lot of that type of thing is done out of fear.
Yeah.
I've said this before with a lot of things in this community, is they're catering to the wrong people.
Yeah.
They're doing it for fear because they don't want to get yelled at by the people that view it in an inappropriate way.
The parents who said, "Oh no, you made my son say the word gay."
Exactly. It's almost a precursor to this whole
right.
Don't say gay thing.
But that really is, right? Like you have schools, people who are raising our children saying, "Don't say the word gay because you might turn gay." Or it might be offensive, or like they're like you said, it's fear. It's definitely
and
fear.
Misunderstanding.
And a misunderstanding. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
I have 4 kids, and we've raised them from the beginning to, they don't look at anybody any differently than anybody else. And they're free to come to us with questions and look for explanations. And on a lot of this stuff, given technology these days, they probably know more even than we do on a lot of these things, because we allow them to just figure things out
And I'm
if they have a question.
and I'm sure social media doesn't help at all.
No, not at all.
I mean,
There's definitely
the bullying,
pros and cons.
using social media, and there must be something happening in Batavia. Like sirens. Tell your boys to quiet it down over there. It's. I know that it is all on how you're raised, and if we're raising our children the right way, they're not going to look at somebody and discriminate against their skin color, their sexual preference, their identity, whatever.
Because they're seen as
A
just
person.
a human being.
We're all human.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's so many other differences amongst people besides this.
Yeah.
Yet people are able to overlook those and not have an issue with people because of things that have been just understood as differences for so much longer.
Does we're gonna turn a page a little bit, and yeah, I need a refill. While you refill, does Belong have any mental health resources available for folks who may need it?
That is definitely something that we've talked about.
Okay.
We just got our 501c3, which is your nonprofit status, which is super exciting because it opens a lot of doors for us. We're able to apply for grants and whatnot that will help support some of that work. Just general community resources, there's a lot of them out there already. But our big goal is to, let's start screening people. We are very good at asking each other, who do you know that's safe? Who do you know that's safe? Who do you know that's safe? And there's enough of us that are in different circles and at different points in life where we know people who are for everybody. And so we've been collecting a list, because even just having that list, you can say these are the folks that you can go to for mental health services, whether or not it's counseling for youth, obviously anyone that is questioning their gender identity and they're a minor, you need to make sure you're giving the information to somebody that's going to actually be able to listen to them and help them explore some of that.
Yeah.
In a safe way, right? But not just offer a safe space for it, but to be educated enough and know it, possibly even just know enough trans people, be a trans person, be a non-binary person, because those experiences are very unique. So sending someone to a mental health provider who just doesn't know can make things worse.
Yeah. That's my wife is a child and adolescent therapist and ally, and knows a lot more about this than I do.
Sure.
And she, I think she would. I mean, I'm not going to volunteer her, but I'm volunteering her. If you ever need anybody to talk to or whatever, we're always open for things like that. But I think that's a great resource. I mean, I think like you said, the first thing is, do you know somebody who's safe?
Yep.
Right, and start from that, the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I did, on that same topic, just a quick search this afternoon, and searching on the internet, LGBTQ mental health resources, Batavia, Geneva, anywhere you're at, I found a link through Psychology Today, and they have a whole list, and it says right in their bios their experience with LGBTQ people. It probably says kids, adults, whatever. But then also I got a fairly extensive list sent to me today from Youth Outlook, who is they're a great resource for any of this stuff. And they've been obviously around a lot longer and compiling a list for a lot longer. And the list I got, the representative only has put people on that list that she has physically met and spoken with and knows that they're a safe space. And it's, all different kinds of areas for counseling and whatnot. So
I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Brother Chimp did a thing after the Pride Parade. Steve, our local Batavian, good guy.
Steve Newman.
Steve did every dollar for every pint went
right.
towards the youth
Youth Outlook,
Youth Outlook.
or other local organizations that do the same.
Yeah, and he was like, it's something that definitely needs to happen because it's the adults. Adults are still not fragile, but the adults still can take some punches, but the youth are very influenceable. They could be influenced the wrong way. They could
easily influenced,
and especially with social media, like I said, and bullying at school and things like that nature. And I think it's great that there's some resources out there. Unfortunately, there has been a transphobia wave that has elevated recently after this Bud Light commercial controversy thing. Has there been any local efforts to protect local trans community from any type of abuse, violence that may have rippled from that wave?
So locally, you really lean back into those mental health providers.
Yeah.
And because ultimately that's what it's affecting. You know, the transphobia that you see across the country, some of the local stuff, and I know Scott can speak much more specifically to the school board in Batavia because he's been very involved in the discussion there. But just as I think that what would be relevant to it is Youth Outlook has tried to do what they call the Youth Drop-In Center, which is a once-a-week program where the youth can come, have a safe space, do different activities, and then they go home. It's just a youth group, right? And they've tried twice, and they got kicked out twice. And it was because of the schools. They couldn't get through the schools to try and, I guess, advertise to the kids and get them in a place where they could actually have these programs. Without having that space, it makes it really hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can't imagine being a youth dealing with today's world. Because it is so divided. I mean, before, when I was younger, it was something you didn't say. Like, and I'm going to jump around, the word queer, in my experience growing up, was a bad word. It was like, you just didn't say it. Like, I was told, I was raised not to say the word queer.
Right.
But then, growing up, you kind of learn that it actually has a meaning. It's someone who's attracted to people of many genders. It's they don't conform to cultural norms around gender or sexuality. So from a straight man and as an ally, is it safe to assume that folks listening can use the term queer for any person whose sexual or gender identity is something other than straight or cisgender?
That is a loaded question, because it is something that the queer community uses very commonly this is how we refer to the community, and some people identify as that as their sexual orientation, right? So saying queer, it really encompasses a lot of different things at once, and we're able to kind of come together with one word. That's kind of how I feel about it, with being able to say queer community instead of LGBTQIA plus.
IA plus.
Right?
Right.
But that's within us. And so I actually had a really interesting conversation today I'm a business coach. And so I have these 30-minute calls with folks all day talking about how to make their business more effective. And because of my social media and my work with Belong, this client of mine knew that I was involved the way that I was. And at the end of our call, she's like, oh gosh, I feel weird asking you this. And I'm like, okay, here we go. She's like, I saw you on social media. I don't know how to ask and learn more. But she said that she's had, because it's for real estate agents, and she's had some clients that she's helped, and she's great. You would assume that she's just automatically an ally as soon as you meet her. She just exudes that. And these different couples and whatnot are saying, thank you so much for making this so easy. I felt accepted. You made the whole process, as you said earlier, it's actually, they say normal, right? Because that is something that's normal, right?
Such a
the whole
vague
literally it's
word.
a transaction, there's a normal transaction.
Right.
So she said, how can I be a better ally to this community? She's like, I've worked with quite a few different realtors, or excuse me, agent. I work with realtors. I've worked with quite a few different clients that have been in a similar situation. So she wanted to know, how could she address the community specifically? And was it appropriate to say, okay, well, I have these resources for you because I know that you might have a negative experience with someone else because they're not accepting.
Yeah.
And that's challenging. Like, how do you say that? I told her that the important thing is having the resources to begin with. Because if someone says, like, I don't feel safe in this situation, I feel weird giving all my financial information to this person that might discriminate against me. They're not going to say that to you. That's what they're thinking, but they're not going to say it. So when you start working with somebody and they share their experience and they share who they are, as an ally, being able to provide the resource, provide an ear, and give somebody the opportunity to just, make a connection with you, ultimately, right? Because a lot of allies like yourself, when we were originally going back and forth about this, it was, well, can I say this? Can I not say this? Because you don't know.
Right.
But that's how you find out.
But that's how you
ask.
find out. You gotta ask.
And in the most respectful way, that's why I wanted to try to throw this question up, because, I I'll in a later question, but like I want to do more. I don't want to just be a straight man who supports the LGBTQ community. I want to advocate. I want to do what I can physically, not just wave a flag in front of my house in 1 month of the year. And like Scott said in the city council meeting, that flag needs to be up all year long.
Yeah.
Because that beacon needs to stay up, not just for a month. That beacon needs to stay up all year long to let people feel like they belong.
And you're right. I don't remember what I was going to say. But can I go back to the queer term?
Yeah.
To answer your question simply, I think it's hard for someone not part of the community to just use that term. If you're in a conversation like this and we're talking about it, and we tell you maybe that's how we identify or we like that term to describe us, I personally do like it because it's kind of an all-encompassing term without getting into specific identities. And it did begin as a derogatory term from the cishet community to mean odd, strange, or unusual. And then many years ago, after the Stonewall riots, the community looked at everyone using this term as a derogatory term and said, you know what? If we reclaim this and use it to describe ourselves, it means nothing to them anymore.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean everybody's good with it. There are people that still view it as a derogatory term, but there's others who go around praising it.
Yeah.
And I think it's become very common in this area, and the events that we've done and the organizers that we work with and just the people in the community. It's an accepted thing that we say.
That's what kind of like threw the question in my head was, you guys do the cheers queers. So I'm like, can I say that? Like from
Right.
It's kind of like the N-word, right? Like,
Right. Well, not quite.
Not quite, but they can say it. We can't.
Right.
Can I say the queer community?
Personally, I think it's great.
For that, sure.
I think
Like
it's
if
great.
I were to like, oh yeah, no, like I know so and so who is a part of the queer community. That's okay. That's acceptable. Right. Okay.
I think so, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so
in that.
too.
But like in a derogatory term, that's like, oh no, so and so, he's a
Right.
Like
And
that's
context
just,
is everything.
right. The context is totally everything. Yeah.
That's-
Like
that's
that's
everything.
like saying the word Jew, right?
Yeah. Yep. So.
But I mean, not close.
I think
Right.
But I'm again with the
We're on the same page.
We're drawing some weird
We're-
lines
yeah.
here, guys. But yeah.
I think queer community is acceptable. I think it's different if you know someone that happens to be gay or lesbian or non-binary, that you just say, I know this queer person, because you don't know if that's a term that they use to describe themselves. I think in the greater, community scheme of things, it's a little bit easier to for anybody to use that, if it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. That clears.
You have our permission. You can say queer.
Folks, I have their permission. No, I appreciate that, and I know this entire episode is sensitive, and I hope you guys know and that I'm doing this out of straight respect and I also typically, this is something that kind of drives, or as Peter Griffin would say in Family Guy, I'm taking my label off so you're going to hear it, grinds my gears. Typically, people use a person's sex to refer to a person's assigned sex at birth, right? Like that's their anatomy, that's their and chromosomes. What people don't know and what people get confused on is that a gender is used to refer to a role, appearance, interests, or one's psychological sense of themselves that as a gendered being. Do you feel that is probably the misunderstanding or the misconception of the difference of gender identity that causes conflicts and ambiguity? Or do you think most of that discrimination is just rooted off of ignorance and discrimination just because you're different?
I quickly say
yes.
ignorance. Well, yes, to all of it. But the initial is because people just don't know.
Right.
And they don't care to know.
And they don't care to know.
I will admit, there are a lot of terms and a lot of things that can make it confusing to someone who doesn't know anything about it and doesn't have any desire to educate themselves or be educated we're doing here. But it's
getting the educating from the right places.
For sure.
That's important too.
Yeah. And that's what this podcast is about to do. It's about to educate or lose a bunch of listeners.
Right. Realistically. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, that's fine. Dude, like I said, I'm here because of a reason. I'm here because I have very, very close friends and neighbors and family members who are in the community. And when I was able to talk to you, Caleb, via email, I'm like, this is the opportunity to use this platform to discuss. And if you're still listening, thank you.
Well, and I think I speak for both of us in that we extremely appreciate what you're doing.
Yes.
And just the simple effort to try to help people understand. Give them things that they can look into themselves, places they can go to look things up. And with the gender, there's over 100 gender identities. And I think a lot of people look at that and they just laugh. They think it's a big joke, which if it doesn't apply to you personally, just like a lot of other things in this whole topic, leave it alone. But if you're going to make an issue of it or you're going to be involved, it's really simple to find the information and do a little bit of reading and get a basic understanding of kind of what our community is about.
So, on a lighter note, I have 2 bottles of hot sauce for you each. The first, it was made by our local, I call him the Sorcerer, Gindo.
That's good.
Good title.
Yeah, actually just left his house. We had pizza at his house. And check him out at gindos.com. That's gindos.com.
Very
One
good
of the
products.
exclusive Cigar Social Podcast hot sauce. It actually has whiskey and fermented cigars in it.
I'm really
Love
excited to try that.
Yes.
It is it's badass.
How is your favorite way?
Eggs.
Eggs.
Throw
Awesome.
it on eggs. Yeah.
Yes.
I put hot sauce on almost anything.
I
Yeah,
do too. We usually have a favorite.
Breakfast stuff
breakfast stuff, you
food
can't
is
go wrong
really
with
good.
breakfast.
Yeah. And I know that Daddy-O's down in Batavia, you ask for Gindos, they'll give you a bottle of Gindos.
Really?
Yeah. It's and the other one, you might notice an astronaut, he's waving a pride flag. And so this has a meaning. As a community here on Houston Street, we grow peppers, among other vegetables and stuff like that in our garden. But for the past 3 years, we would collect all of our peppers, and Gindo would take them and make our annual Houston Street hot sauce. The first year was COVID. So it was, Houston, we have a problem. It was just an astronaut staring at the moon. The second year, COVID was still kind of lingering, and then we had like all the different variants of COVID. And so it was like, Houston, we still have a problem. Well, last year on Flag Day, which today, ironically,
It
is Flag Day, during Pride Month, our houses were vandalized. Our pride flags were ripped off our homes, causing damage, and it happened all across Batavia. It wasn't just Houston Street; it was all across. So, as a middle finger to those responsible, we made Houston. We are fabulous.
Love it.
And my neighbor Trevor around the corner, he did the artwork, and that's why it's like we're flaming hot. Like and we checked with the community, we made sure that we checked to make sure it wasn't like too much. But we added the pride flag to the bottle, and Gindo even added the rainbows on their logo to support. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope it does have some heat. I will let you know.
I can attest to that because I've tried this one. Actually, Matt, you were the first one to introduce me to their sauces probably that first year that you guys were doing it, as we walked around the neighborhood with the kids trick-or-treating.
Trick-or-treating at the clown house.
I bought several more bottles of that year, and then when this one came out last fall, Amy said to me, "You are going to love the logo on this. Wait till you see it." And sure enough, there it is with the rainbow flag.
Trevor is actually working on, so Gindo's making a 3 like super hots. And he's making them more of like comic book characters. You have the Crusher, the Axe.
Cool.
I can't remember the other one. But he's also drawing a comic book to go along with the sauce.
That's
and
awesome.
he was at, was it C2E2? E2C2, the Comic-Con that was in Chicago.
Right.
And Gindo will be down in Miami with it as
cool.
well. But phenomenal artist. And he did the pride flag with the astronaut, and to me, this, even though it is probably the hottest sauce we made from our local peppers, because last year I went ridiculous with the scorpions and the reapers. This year we're gonna go a little more mild. I got some super hots in the garden, but I enjoy it. Like I said. My wife made a broccoli ham cheese quiche yesterday. That's phenomenal.
A little hot sauce on there.
Yeah. Oh, on some eggs. I'm telling you, eggs and hot sauce are like that's my bread and butter. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, so back to Belong. Does your organization have any resources that educates or supports the youth? I think we might have covered this, to understand the inclusiveness of the queer community.
Like as in getting them together and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean you have the teen queer prom.
Yep.
Besides that, is there any type of events or even resources you have on hand? So if somebody were to reach out to Belong on your website, say, "Hey, I'm 16 and I have some issues."
First, partner them up with the mental health professionals that are going to help with the situation. But from specifically what we can do is we've created a lot of spaces. We do a Halloween party that's a blast, and everybody comes together with their costumes and whatnot. The queer prom, but I think the thing that we're probably the most excited about is now that we have our nonprofit status, we can launch our own youth center right here in the Tri-Cities.
The drop-in center that we were talking about with Outlook.
Yep. And we know exactly where we're going to do it.
It's all set up.
It's all
basically.
set up.
It's just got to be.
Yeah, there's just some logistics at this point. And like that has been the thing we've been, like as soon as we get the status, we can do this thing. Because some of the first events that we did were inspired by kids. Yeah. It was the youth coming out and saying, I can't at home be myself, all the different things that queer youth say. And being able, and like I had shared that some of the first folks that started the organization, GSA sponsors, librarians, parents. So
I think parents are the big one.
The big one, right?
Right, because if you can you can get parents to understand and realize, then that's the catalyst of acceptance.
Yep. And we've been really fortunate with the individuals that pooled their resources and started some of this stuff, and they're looking at each other saying, we've got something here. And as the group began to grow, and I got involved, and then Scott got involved, and just what we've been able to accomplish in 1 year for the youth, for the community, is, we're just really proud of this stuff. So proud of what we've created.
As you should be. Yeah, for sure.
So I used to live in Phoenix, and in Phoenix I worked with a 1 in 10 organization. Massive youth following there. If anybody is in Phoenix and you have a youth that needs some help, they work with folks between the age of 13 and 25. So they have a lot of different resources for different stages of life. Massive center downtown. I was so proud of the work that I did there. I was in charge of one of the essentially what was the drop-in center.
Yeah.
And so when I came here, I was like, oh my God, there's nothing for these kids here. And how do we make it happen? So when I got partnered up with the folks that, like you said, parents who are like, let's make this larger.
Yeah.
And they had the capacity to say, let's do it on a larger scale to help more youth. And it's just really exciting. Really exciting.
Speaking of exciting, how are your cigars?
Amazing.
They're very good.
You're digging it?
Very nice, smooth smoke.
Yep.
Scott, you told me that you haven't had a good premium cigar in a while. What, you've been doing some White Owls and some Swisher Sweets?
Drew Estate.
Some acids?
Seconds. No,
like the factory smokes?
Yeah, factory smokes.
Okay. Well, you know what?
They're not bad. But
they're not
they're
bad.
definitely a budget.
They are definitely budget friendly. We down in Tennessee, we keep a bunch of bundles of factory smokes for like just fire pit smoking, just because.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they're great. They're great. Maybe after this we'll do a round 2 on the patio. I got a Black Star line for you that was made with a red label for firemen.
So very nice.
Perfect.
But yeah, no, this is great. I was a huge fan of Alec Bradley when I first started smoking cigars. I started getting their samplers and stuff like that. And you can go to Benny's now and buy like a sampler, like 5 cigars for like $30 or whatever. So, they're like they're not even in the humidor. They're like as
just
you're waiting
on
in
the
line.
glass case outside. Yeah, before you ring the bell.
But Alec Bradley, and then so Alan Rubin, who owns Alec Bradley, he named his company after his sons, Alec and Bradley.
Oh, nice.
So his sons are now of age, and so now Alec and Bradley came out with their own thing. They're still under the same umbrella, right? But Alec and Bradley are now like trying to... Yeah. It is very confusing when you go to a humidor. You're like, is this Alec Bradley or is this Alec and Bradley? You're like, I don't know.
You say umbrella, and that's a huge term in LGBTQ terminology.
Really?
Yes.
Yep. Because there's the transgender umbrella, there's the non-binary umbrella, and it's a one term that encompasses a lot of other terms that are more kind of specific underneath it.
Like the word queer.
Mm-hmm.
Transgender, under that you would have all kinds of gender diverse people, non-binary, gender queer, gender non-conforming. The list goes on.
Yeah.
But
I've noticed that there's a bunch of flags that I've seen.
There's a bunch of flags in my yard. 19, I believe.
But I did not know that there was that many flags. I had no
Like I
idea.
said,
There's
there's over 100 different gender identities. I
You
don't
could
know
go
that
down
each
a
one
real
of them
rabbit hole
has a
finding all the
flag,
flags,
but
yeah.
yes, there's probably hundreds of flag varieties.
Easy.
Yeah.
There's the umbrella of common ones that you probably will find
Correct.
if you do a Google search. But,
right.
yeah.
Which are the ones that are right at the sidewalk line in my
Yep.
yard, surrounded by some of the.
And I liked what you did this year was the word
I
pride.
did. I think last year was the
Did you do
first
that
time
too?
I did that. Yeah.
Yeah. I took so my wife bought the baby trailer for the bike.
Oh yeah.
So we
Like
did a couple.
like a burly type thing.
We did a couple. Yeah, exactly. We did a couple laps today. Well, I won't take her down the hill yet. I don't know how that trailer's going to react down Houston Hill.
I used to use that thing. I used to take my kids to preschool, actually, right here at the Congregational Church, and that my kids are way beyond riding in a bike trailer now, but we got a lot of use out of those when they were younger.
She, well, even on walks, like even in the little wagon or stroller, we love going by your place because
A lot of people say that.
not only the flags, but the funky skeletons,
Yep.
the skis, and
I literally I met somebody for coffee at Limestone the other day, and I walked up to the counter to order my drink, and the girl, I've never seen her before, said, "Are you the one?" And I finished her sentence with all the flags in the yard, and she said, "Yep." My daughter loves to go by there, and she calls it the skeleton house.
Yeah, skeleton house.
Cool name.
Yeah, and I think you even have like a sign on like your back fence, whatever, it says like "We're beautiful inside" or something like that.
It does. That's actually a real estate sign. It's like
Yeah.
the thing that they hang on the bottom of the for sale sign.
It's great. No,
Yeah.
we love it. We absolutely, as a community, like it's just a staple. I feel almost like yeah.
This is a great area.
And that's what drew me here is when I mean, long story short, I was traveling for work. I found this area and I was like, whoa,
That's
Batavia is
interesting.
like the jam. Like I really dig this place. And and as living here and bought a home, owning property and walking around, meeting neighbors. I mean, dude, so every Friday in October, I do Friday night horror nights, and I project horror movies on the garage door.
That's what
looks
I'm
like I'm
talking
gonna have to
about.
start filling in my calendar for
Yeah. That's awesome.
October.
The first couple times, and the first couple times, and we would tell the neighbors because me and my wife, we like to sit on the front
My
porch.
kids would love it.
And we just say hi because we drink our mimosas or our coffee or whatever out on the front porch.
We hang out in the front yard because we like. to
And
see
so we're just like,
people go
hey,
by.
how you doing? Hey, how you doing? And we just met people. And we're like, hey, you know what? This Friday night, we're doing, the first Freddy movie or whatever. And I go on PowerPoint and I make these cool like little movie posters, whatever, and I send them out via group text now because everyone's in our giant group text, and it just keeps getting larger.
I'm not.
Wow.
Yeah.
You will be. But yeah, we had people that lived 2 houses that way and 2 houses that way that never knew each other. And I'm like, how do you not
Right.
know your neighbors? And I feel like as a community, we need to, and it comes just like this, is like when we had the house next door went for sale, and Michael and our neighbors moved in.
Mm-hmm.
Completely like there wasn't a skip in the record.
Mm-hmm.
It was just come on over, and you're accepted, whoever you are, whatever you are.
Yep.
I don't care. We're here to have a good time. We have bonfires. I like to smoke ribs, so I mean that smokers usually burning
Nice.
on Saturdays. Yeah, but it's one of those things where, as a community, you need to come together. Excuse my language, but fuck whatever you are.
Yeah.
Fuck what you look like. Whatever. Like it doesn't matter. Does my sexuality bother you? Does your sexuality bother me? No,
Right.
no, I don't care. I honestly don't care. Like it's just one of those things where, and that's what Batavia is. Batavia, they go to the farmer's market, go to the whatever. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this place.
I've lived here for 17 and a half years, and I grew up in Geneva, but Batavia has come a long way, probably in the last 15 years, with community and inclusivity and everything along the lines of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier to be a resident here.
It's a beautiful neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
like in the best term. What upcoming events can people find belong Fox Valley?
Well, we're doing our Sending Pride Month out with a bang. Additional Cheers Queers, because we usually only do one a month. And so we're going to do the 27th? It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday this time.
At Bash, which is
Okay.
the burger and sushi house.
I've been trying to get there.
We love it because I have an 8-year-old. He's picky. So he only wants to eat cheeseburgers.
Okay.
He can go have his cheeseburgers. Yes, we can have sushi. So
And
it's like
actually,
a win for everybody.
It's nice to have
Burgers
it
and
at a
cheeseburgers.
place that has
Yeah.
food, because a lot of the
Yeah.
places we do are like breweries that are just drinks, and to have the option, which
They've
can
been
bring-
great supports
have
for
the kids
us.
along, and
Every rainbow roll that they sell this month is going to belong, which is awesome.
like you were talking about, Brother
Yep.
Chimp, a lot
Absolutely.
of
Similar
businesses
thing.
do that.
And
It's
they
really
reached
cool.
out to us and they've been like, please, when can we do one? When can we do one? And they've got an awesome space upstairs. And so this one we're gonna really send the month off with a bang. And they've got a full bar up there. When I toured it, I said, okay, you've got a full bar up here. You're gonna have a bartender up here. You obviously have to make a signature cocktail. Like that needs to happen.
yeah, oh, for sure.
Right? And they were like, yeah, that's gonna be awesome. So they're working on that now, but it's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. For myself, I recognize that I'm an ally, but I know for sure I can do more as an advocate. And how can I, and also for folks listening that may feel the same way, get more involved with supporting and advocating the equality of the queer community?
Know what's happening in the world. I think that sometimes folks, and please don't take this as an insult, but folks, the allies, just from my experience of speaking with some who are massive allies like yourself, sometimes you don't see necessarily everything that's happening
Right.
because you're just there to be open and accepting. And things are challenging right now
Yeah.
for the queer community. And just being a little bit more aware, because there are things that you can do. Vote. Please vote. Please vote. Get involved in like some of the community things. Like you have a kid, start to get involved with the community
Yep.
as a whole. Like Scott works with a lot with the city council and the school board.
Literally, yeah, school board meetings, city
Mhm.
council meetings, any legislative body that holds a meeting, go and
Mhm.
at least understands what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's just it's knowing, like you said, what's going on. And allyship is not like, Matt, I think you referred to it earlier. It's not just waving a
flag.
rainbow flag or buying a pride T-shirt. It's there's a lot more to it. That doesn't do us
Yeah.
any good. It might make visibility a little bit better, but it doesn't help the issues. And because of who I am and the things that I'm see and am part of on social media, I see and read a lot more about what's going on. And people that it doesn't affect, just it and nothing against them, they just don't see those news stories or those sites or those anything that's posting the difficulties that are out there, like you mentioned earlier with the trans backlash and the extreme amount of hate that's out there right now.
Our neighbor brought to my attention in downtown there was allies attacked by the Proud Boys or whatever. There was to me it's like you said, it's acceptance and understanding is probably the foundation of the quote unquote allyship, right? Like accept and understand, but like, yeah, I want to advocate, and like you said, go to school boards, go to city council meetings,
And a lot of that stuff's just in general for
Yeah.
the community you live in, so you know what's going on. But this topic comes up in every one of those, the library board, the park district, like every single entity that's out there.
Local government is really just ignored.
It is.
Yeah.
It's just ignored. People don't, they're not big issues, right? Some of them are, and you don't realize. It's like, oh, it's local stuff, they'll figure it out.
It's like the local elections that
Yeah.
come around between the big elections. The turnout's so much lower because people just, they're like, whatever.
And some people might
Doesn't
say it's
matter
hard
to
to
me.
find information about the candidates. Well, most towns will do a meet your candidates like get together where you
They
can
do.
go and they talk about it.
The League of Women Voters.
Exactly. You can hear exactly what people's priorities are, and you can learn pretty quickly who's not an ally. So then your question is, when you're saying, I'm here in the world and I want to be an ally, what are you willing to do about it?
Right. Exactly.
I'm still getting to my LA Facebook post for the month.
Well, listen, I'm using my platform as step one.
Oh, totally.
But yeah, I and like my wife just walked into the shed. Hi, babe. We definitely want to do more to help and to educate. I think educate is probably the one thing, because a lot of people are, like you said, it's either straight up ignorance and discrimination because it's different.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a line in the sand that you just can't fix. But if you can educate one or two people and say, hey, this person's different because X, Y, Z.
And
Don't be afraid to ask.
Right.
Don't
exactly.
be afraid to ask.
Right.
Some people will say, you'll know right away if somebody doesn't feel comfortable telling their story.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I've been out for 20 years now, and I've gone through a lot of different things. I've helped a lot of allies better understand trans people. So, just through talking, I am happy to talk about it. But you got to ask.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to be like, hey, you want to talk about the story?
Hey, by
Right?
the way,
Yeah,
like
by
you
the
were saying
way.
at the airport,
Right.
I'm at the airport. Oh, hey, bud, let me
Right.
talk to you about what no, you don't want to, but yeah, people
You want to
who
be
are,
an ally? Ask.
ask. You hear that? Ask.
And be open to what we say.
Yes. Yeah.
Hopefully, if you're asking,
Ask
that's
and have
what
an
comes
open
with
mind.
the-
Don't.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Exactly. So I assume people can find Belong Fox Valley on social media. Where can folks find you, subscribe, follow, etc.?
Facebook, we have the largest following, but we post everything through Facebook and through Instagram. One of the nice things about our Facebook presence is we actually have two groups. One of them is a closed group to help individuals find their community privately. So you have to actually submit and say,
Phenomenal.
I'd like to join the community because maybe that's just what they need. That's all
Yes.
they need, right?
Some privacy.
Yep, and there's a lot more discussion in that one, which is super helpful. Like you talked about some of the mental health stuff.
Yes.
That is like a small piece that we do that can help people.
Yep.
But
Everybody else wants to know about it. Follow Belong Fox Valley on Facebook, and you can see all the different events that we do.
like Caleb,
you singing Alanis Morissette.
Yes, that one was on there. Yep.
But he mentioned earlier that social media is how we do our advertising. And you know what a big thing is the group posts the stuff. Then all of us members of the group turn around and share it on our personal social media so that it reaches the people that aren't a part of the group. And that only grows exponentially if allies and people that see it turn around, they share the event, and then it just reaches a bigger and bigger audience.
Yeah. No, exactly. I've shared the advertisement. I don't know. You saw the on my cigar group.
Yeah. I did see
I don't
that.
have social media. She does the
Sure.
the Instagram for my podcast, but I don't have Facebook. I don't play that game just because it's toxic.
And some people don't. I know people that
it really is.
aren't on there at all. I
So-
get a lot of positives out of it, and obviously, in an organization like we have, it
Yeah.
can be great.
Yep.
But,
And we just recently connected on LinkedIn. I just saw that.
We did.
So,
Which-
but I posted
yeah.
that on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's the only.
It is, but
It's
it's
the only social media I have.
But that especially, I think, reaches a totally different audience than just your typical social media
Yeah.
sites.
And for anyone who, like you're saying, doesn't have social media and doesn't want to be involved in that capacity, we are also starting like email lists,
Yeah.
mailing things to people. So there are just
There's
your good
always
old
a
fashioned,
way.
Like a newsletter.
Yes, exactly. We are still very young, and there are a lot of things on the list that we need to accomplish still. And
Well, like you just said, you just got your nonprofit. So,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
congratulations,
Probably
by
a
the
month
way.
ago,
I
that's
forgot
it.
to say that.
But I mentioned too, some of these other more established groups in Northern Illinois that we're close with and work together with really well. They are turning around and sharing our things, or wanting to collaborate on events and inviting us to things that they're a part of that we might not have heard of. So it just, the word of mouth and just sharing and getting it out there through different avenues is
be kind
what's
to your
gonna help us
neighbors.
the most. Yeah.
These neighboring communities,
Just-
create good relationships with them, and they help sponsor events. We help sponsor events, and we just grow and meet
there-
more people.
Yeah, I've said this several times recently in some of my posts that I've made, but we're real, as much as people complain about Illinois and want to get out of Illinois, we as a community are really fortunate to be in Illinois with the protections that we have and the governor that we have who actually supports us. And
Yeah.
then you can go all the way down to right here in Batavia, like I've already said. Batavia's come a long way. We've got a great supportive community here, an arts community. They really encourage people to thrive here. And
Sweater Vest Shelkey supports us 100%.
Yep.
Folks, go to belongfoxvalley.org. That's belongfoxvalley.org. Check out their website. Check out their events calendar. I saw you had a nice little calendar going for
for
Pride
the June,
Week.
yeah,
And reach out to any of us personally.
exactly.
I've met
I'm-
several folks that didn't want to go into the group, so they private messaged me,
Yeah.
and we'll get you connected.
Okay.
I
We
tell
wanna
people
be that for
all
people.
the time.
We'll throw
Schools,
the
anything.
ats at on our page so people know where
Yes.
you're at.
And if I don't have an answer, I will find you the answer you're looking for.
And we've got a diverse enough group that we can always find the answer.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Or you can email them at belongfoxvalley@gmail.com. That's exactly what I did. And Caleb responded, almost immediately. So he did a great, we connected immediately.
So there's proof. If you ask,
Yes.
people will say,
Yeah,
let's give you some
exactly.
answers.
Yep.
Immediately.
Here we are.
So today's word is ask. Folks, our time is running out. This episode is down to a nub. My cigar is down to a nub. Scott,
Proud of you, Scott.
Caleb, thanks for joining. I honestly, I more than appreciate you taking the time. You're always welcome in our home to burn one, to drink a couple, to hang out. Like,
Hey man, this is the
Careful what
coolest
you
shed.
wish for.
This is the coolest shed I've ever been in. Hands
It is.
down.
this is the best shed ever.
It's my better.
I was telling all my kids before, he does the podcast out of his shed in the backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
that's
like, what?
That's what I tell people. I'm talking
It's
to like
awesome.
Steve
I
Saka
love it.
and people in Pete Johnson from Tatsuahe. I'm like, dude, you're talking to some random dude in his fucking shed. Like, I'm just okay, cool.
It's perfect.
You got a pretty good setup here, man.
Yeah, but it's great. It's a great place to talk, discuss, bring up topics. This one was a little more than I'm used to, and for me personally, I can't thank you enough.
And we can't thank you enough.
Oh, absolutely.
It's huge.
Friends of the Leaf. Don't forget to check out our official sponsor, Black Star Line Cigars at blackstarline.shop. Use promo code CigarSocial15. That's CigarSocial15 for 15% off your entire order and free shipping on all orders over $100. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time here at the Cigar Social Podcast. Stay safe, be happy, and ask.
Ask.
Good night, everybody.